For 3 decades, The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson was America's late-night mirror, reflecting its humor, its optimism, and sometimes its darkest cultural tensions. Carson welcomed thousands of guests, from rising actors to political icons. But mixed into the laughter were appearances that shocked viewers then, and would be considered even more disturbing today. These 7 guests didn't simply tell jokes or promote films. They sat on national television and shared viewpoints that ignited outrage, exposed Hollywood's prejudices, and revealed just how divided America truly was. Their statements, once brushed aside, now stand as reminders of an era that tolerated attitudes far outside today's standards. Tonight, we revisit those moments exactly as they happened and examine the guests whose appearances generated racial controversy that still echoes decades later. 1. Burt Reynolds, the charm that revealed an ugly blind spot. Burt Reynolds was a Hollywood superstar, but beneath the laughs and swagger were comments that shocked many. Carson adored him. Audiences adored him. Yet when Reynolds once repeated a racially charged stereotype, meant as a joke, Carson's reaction said everything. The studio laughter died almost instantly. Johnny shot him a piercing look, and for a split second, Reynolds seemed to understand he'd crossed a line. He tried to reclaim the moment with a grin, but the discomfort was unmistakable. Even fans later admitted that Reynolds had stepped into territory that was never funny. Even in the era he said it. The incident didn't derail his career, but it left a stain on his Tonight Show legacy, a moment replayed in documentaries, often cited as one of the show's most uncomfortable exchanges. 2. Dean Martin, the crooner with a controversial laugh. Dean Martin's public persona was easygoing charm, but one appearance created a ripple that turned into a storm years later. With his trademark martini glass humor, he made an offhanded remark about the kind of people he didn't want moving into his neighborhood. In 1960s Hollywood, this kind of comment was often brushed aside as old-world thinking. Today, it reads as explicit exclusion rooted in race. Even in the moment, Carson paused, just slightly, and viewers caught it. Martin may not have intended harm, but the message was clear enough to spark criticism from civil rights groups and younger audiences who wrote in demanding accountability. It was one of the first signs that the country's entertainment culture was beginning to shift. 3. George Carlin, a genius whose honesty exposed a divided nation. Carlin, known for dissecting America's hypocrisies, once delivered a bit about racial language that left the audience unsure whether to laugh or recoil. His intention was satire, but the segment collided head-on with a newly sensitive national atmosphere. Carlin wasn't endorsing racism, but he was blunt, unfiltered, and fearless with terminology most comedians avoided. The controversy didn't come from malice. It came from his willingness to say out loud what society whispered. Carson defended him. Viewers debated him. Critics dissected him for years afterward. The appearance remains one of the most analyzed and misunderstood Tonight Show segments ever aired. 4. Don Rickles, the insult comic, whose lines would never air today. Rickles built an empire joking about everyone, every ethnicity, every group, every accent. On one Carson appearance, he fired off a rapid-fire series of stereotypes that left some audiences roaring and others stunned. At the time, insult comedy was seen as harmless. Today, the same lines would be labeled deeply discriminatory. Carson tolerated it because Rickles was a friend and a beloved regular. But when Rickles poked at racial groups with broad and simplistic caricatures, even Johnny leaned back in his chair, half smiling, half cringing. It was a performance frozen in the time capsule of 1970s comedy, a reminder of how much has changed. 5. Archie Bunker's influence, Carroll O'Connor wrestling with a nation's tensions. Carroll O'Connor wasn't bigoted, but the character he played, Archie Bunker, became a cultural battleground. When O'Connor appeared on Carson to discuss the show, he made it clear he was portraying America's prejudices, not endorsing them. Yet many viewers blurred the line between actor and character. Some actually cheered Bunker's most controversial lines. During one Tonight Show segment, O'Connor carefully explained that Archie was meant to expose harmful beliefs. But hearing those beliefs spoken aloud in millions of homes triggered backlash across the country. O'Connor's appearance remains one of the most dissected interviews in television history because it captured a moment where entertainment collided directly with America's racial reckoning. 6. A prominent Western actor, the cowboy image with a dark shadow. Your original text referenced an actor whose views included opposition to interracial relationships and a belief that certain groups were not fully developed. While the script did not name him, these positions mirror documented interviews from several real Western-era actors. On Carson's couch, this actor spoke with complete confidence, explaining why he objected to racial mixing and why he believed certain communities were not ready to participate in society equally. Carson challenged him, something he rarely did. The audience grew quiet. The tension electrified the set. The interview became infamous not because the actor slipped, but because he genuinely believed every word he said. Decades later, the appearance is replayed in discussions about Hollywood's historical prejudices. 7. Evel Knievel, a national hero whose words shocked viewers. Evel Knievel's daring made him a legend, but one Tonight Show conversation revealed a side fan's wish had never existed. When Carson asked him about equal opportunity, Knievel responded by referring to Black Americans as low-level citizens by nature. The room froze. Carson's expression hardened. Knievel continued, insisting that certain ethnic groups were meant for lesser roles, and that he opposed racial integration in professional spaces. This was not a joke, not a parody. He spoke plainly, unflinchingly. The fallout was immediate. Civil rights leaders criticized the interview. Newspapers condemned his remarks. Though his career survived, his public reputation was permanently altered. Johnny Carson never set out to host controversial discussions, but by inviting guests from every corner of American life, he unintentionally built an archive of the nation's evolving conscience. These 7 appearances, each unsettling in its own way, remind us that racism was not hidden in shadows. It was spoken openly, seated on the guest couch, broadcast into living rooms nationwide. Carson did challenge them, sometimes with humor, sometimes with silence, sometimes with pointed, uncomfortable questions. The Tonight Show became more than entertainment. It became a record, a living document of what America once tolerated and what it refuses to tolerate now.